For example 4, we now have the radical 3n over radical 8. So everything we looked at so far only had radicals said that were not fractions. They were all whole numbers or had variables, and we were able to simplify. If we have a fraction, one of our rules for simplifying is that we are not allowed to have a radical underneath the fraction in the denominator. So in order to take care of that, we have to do something called rationalizing the denominator. You should have took that definition down the last slide. Basically what that means is in order to eliminate that radical in the denominator, we have to multiply both numerator and denominator by that radical. So since this is a radical 8, we are going to multiply both numerator and denominator by radical 8. So radical 8 goes both on the numerator and denominator. This only happens when the whole denominator is underneath the radical. So the whole denominator is underneath the radical of 8. We multiply numerator and denominator by that radical. And now we multiply straight across. Radical 3n times radical 8 becomes radical 24n. Radical 8 times radical 8 would be radical 64. And what that now allows us to do, well, what's the square root of 64? The square root of 64 is 8. So now we've cleared the radical from our denominator. We have rationalized the denominator. Last thing we need to check, though, is we have this radical 24n up in our numerator. If that can be simplified, like we simplified the first 3 examples, what you did yesterday, then we are going to simplify that. So we take our radical 24n, and we do our factor tree. So 24, factors of 24, 2 and 12, 2 is prime. Factors of 12, 2 and 6, 2 is prime. Factors of 6, 2 and 3, both those are prime. So we can rewrite radical 24n as the square root of 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times n over 8. We have one pair of 2's in our numerator, and that's it. So that 1, 2 goes on the outside. 2 times 3 is 6, so 2 over 6n over 8. Last but not least, we can simplify. Now, something to be careful about. We can only simplify with what's outside the radical. I repeat, we can only simplify with what's outside the radical. Once this radical 6n is here, we cannot touch that. The only thing we can simplify is the 2 over 8. We simplify the 2 over 8. They're both divisible by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So it becomes 1 times radical 6n over 8 divided by 2, which is 4. And there's our final answer. 1 times radical 6n, or just radical 6n, divided by 4.